What's going on, everybody? Let's Talk Jets Radio, a little emergency video here. Tried to let this story and situation kind of die down over the last 48 hours, but clearly the national media is not going to let that happen very easily. They're still harping on this Aaron Rodgers situation and why he wasn't at mandatory minicamp. Was he on vacation? Is that an acceptable reason? How did the Jets handle it? In particular, Saleh, with how he handled the media, calling it an inexcused absence, and he's still going to be fine, but we knew about it months ago. Very strange situation, and I will say that, Rodgers, we know he's a complex individual. This situation is clearly much different from Hassan Reddick, who's clearly not here because of contract reasons. But I'm going to say some things here that I don't really want to say, but I feel like they need to be said because every Jet fan's in Aaron Rodgers' corner. That's obvious. I've been the biggest Aaron Rodgers supporter since he got here. Even before he got here, I was ready to sell my soul to make him a Jet, because I feel like that's exactly what the Jets needed. Somebody not just with his talent, but with his leadership abilities. And he's been everything and more to the Jets since he's gotten here. He's brought all of that. The leadership, the attention to detail, everything in the locker room that he brings. The guys in that room respect the hell out of him. And, they keep saying, like, if it's important to him, it's important to us. He's been everything and more to the New York Jets. So I'm not going to act like him missing 2 days in June is going to make any kind of difference come training camp, come preseason, or into the season at all. I don't think it makes a difference. Clearly the team knew about it. Clearly players are fine with it. And the biggest thing is that he's been there for almost every single day of OTAs. So to try to act like or spin it like this guy's not invested, there are other things that matter more than football. He's a hypocrite for, telling everybody else to eliminate all the distractions and then he's not here. I don't find any truth in any of that. But where I'm frustrated and a little bit disappointed is how all parties involved with this handled this situation, starting with Rodgers, where, again, I haven't criticized anything he's done since putting on a Jet uniform. This will probably be the first time I criticize him a little bit, because if we're going to believe the narrative that this was a planned event, that the Jets knew about it months ago, one, I question how Tyrod Taylor just found out the day before the first day of mandatory practice that he was going to be getting all the reps with the ones. I found that very odd. But also, Rodgers being there every day of OTAs, why wouldn't he take ownership of it while he was still there, while the media was there, and address it and get out in front of it, instead of allowing everybody to be caught by surprise when they found out on Monday? Because I think that was on Tuesday when he wasn't there, because I think that's what elevated it to the national media attention and everything else, was because it caught everybody by surprise. Why is he not here? We didn't hear about this. We didn't know anything was going on. He was there for OTAs, and now all of a sudden he's not here. And then, the way Saleh handled it. So I just think if Rodgers legitimately knew he wasn't going to be there, which is clear he didn't, and they knew about it months ago, why not just take ownership, get out in front of it, don't allow anybody to be caught off guard, and just say, hey, I have something planned. It was planned months ago. I let the team know. They're fine with it. I'm not going to be here, which is why I put in the extra work for OTAs. And it's probably a non-story, or at least much less of a story than it's become. So that's where I think Rodgers is wrong. Do I think he should be there? Yes, it's a mandatory practice. You have 31 other quarterbacks that found a way to be there. And again, just going back to his quotes about eliminating the distractions, keeping it all about football, the entire way that this situation played out, he's a smart enough man to know that this was going to be a distraction. This was going to be a major story. So maybe they don't care about, the outside noise or the outside headlines, but if you do legitimately care about eliminating distractions, which he said he did, then this is something that you would think that him and the team would have gotten out in front of. And then just the way Saleh handled it, I'm bothered by that, because in a way I almost feel bad for Saleh, because it seems like he's just a man up there on the podium sometimes without any answers. And you got the media just absolutely relentless coming at him with questions about Reddick and, the contract situation. Did they know that he was still going to be unhappy when they traded for him? When did you find out about Rodgers? And everything is just, it's a Joe question. I can't really get into that. And even with Rodgers, you have other teams that have excused players for missing practices before, where they're not fined. The Jets chose to fine Rodgers anyway, even though they knew about it. They still call it inexcused. So his wording of everything when he got up there on the podium, I think definitely added to kind of the fuel for the national media, just making this more of a story, questioning Rodgers' leadership. And you can kind of sense also, I think Saleh probably did that for a reason. I think either he or somebody else within the Jets is probably not happy. And even Rodgers, if I'm Saleh, if I'm the head coach, I'm like, you're my quarterback. How am I supposed to go up there on the podium and defend you not being there while expecting everybody else to show up for something that was mandatory? So Rodgers isn't exactly putting Saleh in the best position there either. By not showing up, by not addressing the media. It does show, I think, a little bit of a lack of respect for the head coach. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is, while we vent and rant about all the particulars about this, I think the most important thing is that it's not going to matter. And I think that's where a lot of fans are upset with all the attention that this is getting. You can question him not being there. He should have been there, shouldn't have been there, should have let the team know, should have talked to the media. A lot of what ifs and could haves, and a lot of this situation that could have been handled better. But at the end of the day, does it really matter? Does it impact what's going to take place on the field? And I think the answer is clearly no. I think this is a guy that's still respected within the locker room. He's been putting in the time in OTAs when he didn't have to be there. So I don't think this affects anything. I don't think this affects his relationship with the players. I don't think this, affects Saleh and his message. I just found it very weird the way that the team chose to try to go about addressing it, and they only added fuel to the fire for everybody else. So I still say it's a non-story, but I do wish he was. I do wish he was here, and I would like to know where he is exactly. I saw the report from Colin Cowherd that it's a vacation. He's somewhere overseas right now. Apparently, that's going to get leaked out a little bit more today or tomorrow. Whatever it is, I don't really care. I kind of tend to side with the players that, if it's something that's important to Rodgers, who's been putting in the work, who's been there for OTAs, who's done how many mini camps already, like, these 2 days are not going to impact what he does day one of training camp. He's not going to be behind. He's not going to be trying to play catch up. We know what Rodgers is. He's been putting in the work, the past 12 months, just rehabbing and everything else. So if the guy had something planned, I'm not going to crush him for it. But again, just going back, as I finally wrap this up, to the whole leadership thing, the culture aspect of it that you're trying to establish within that building, I think he's been everything and more to what the Jets need in that locker room. But again, when you're talking about something that's mandatory and you're vocal about eliminating distractions amongst everybody else and how the team leaks stuff, there's a lot of things that he was very vocal about that he was unhappy about last year. Well, that's where he should be setting the example. And I think he's done that most of the summer. I think he did that throughout his rehab, trying to get back early. He's done it being there for all of OTAs. But certainly a mandatory practice, depending on whatever this was, if it was just a vacation, or some kind of music festival, whatever it might have been, it would be a little disappointing that he couldn't find a way to just, I'm going to be there for something that's mandatory. I'm going to be there for my teammates. But again, does it really matter? Absolutely not. This is just something to keep us entertained for the next, 41 days until we get to training camp. So not a big deal, but I do understand some of the criticism that's being thrown his way. I think that he, and then definitely the team and Saleh, could have handled this much better. So talk to you guys later.